Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you. Is that your cue that I can start talking?
No, I
Yes.
I want to share a shameful secret.
Oh,
Yeah. Can I share a shameful secret?
sure.
Okay. Are you braced?
Yep.
I used to flat iron my hair.
Not a secret. Definitely knew that.
Mm-hmm. I was once.
Did you flat iron it off?
Oh, that's so mean. Because I'm bald? That's so rude. This is how I get treated at home all the time by her.
Is it?
Maybe. Oh, man. Yeah. I learned that pro tip from Keith Urban personally, though.
Oh,
True
like
story.
he personally said, this is how you should do your hair?
Yes.
Oh.
I literally talked to Keith Urban on Hollywood Boulevard.
Aw.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's Keith Urban. And he's looking stylish. And I walked up to him and my hair was growing out longer, which is funny to say that I had hair. and I looked at him and I was like, hey, cool haircut. Like, where'd you get that? He's like, oh, in Nashville. Thanks so much. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what do you do to get it like that? He was like, I flat iron it.
That's hysterical. First of all, I love that you asked that specific of a question.
Uh-huh.
And then I love that he owned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just like, I do this. This is what I do. Then I went home and tried to figure out how to flat iron it. And then, once I cut it shorter again, I kept flat ironing it because I had like curl in my hair. And I could get it nice and spiky and do really cool stuff with a little flat iron action.
But I liked the curl. That was sexy.
Yeah, there was a good wave to it. Yeah, it was pretty hot.
That's actually one of the first stories I heard about you.
What, my flat ironing?
Yeah, you were friends with somebody that I knew, and she was like, oh my gosh, my friend is flat ironing his hair.
Yeah. Do you think that was a green flag or a red flag for you?
Well, I think she said it like a red flag.
Yeah.
Yep.
But apparently it was
Somehow we still got married, though.
Somehow we did still get married. But here's the thing. It wasn't a big enough red flag to deter you
Nope.
from being in a relationship with me.
Nope.
Which is what we're going to talk about today. Green flags.
Green flags. But I'd like to say green flags for friendships, for coworker situations, for dating, for marriage. Green flags for all relationships, basically. And you know what is interesting about this? I feel like you have things that you're thinking.
I had jokes that were so inappropriate that I was like, I'm not allowed to say that. Or I am, but they'll just get me in trouble enough to edit it out probably. So I just
your face looked like your joy amusement was happening.
Yeah, it's
your
funny.
Own.
Yeah, sometimes I go to my happy place internally and make all my jokes there. Me and my friend Justin.
No one else can critique them there.
Yeah, no, not at all. But go ahead. Yeah, green flags. Which is funny. I didn't
You're
mean to do this.
You're wearing a green shirt.
Yeah, I didn't mean to
you
do that.
are one big green flag.
I
You know
am a
what
big
happened
green
right
flag.
before we started this podcast is we kind of had disagreement.
Snafu.
A snafu. That's a good way to call it. A snafu. And we were kind of at a place where I was like, do we want to try to figure out how to talk through this and not record another podcast? Or are we going to figure out how to record a podcast? So you thought about it and came back and said, why don't we go for a walk outside and just move our bodies together, get regulated together, and reconnect?
What was your initial response to that?
No. But for a myriad of reasons
totally.
that are logical, but not saying no. So
Understandable.
we found a different way that we could go for a walk, move our bodies, and connect together.
Yeah.
But you came back and you pursued finding a way to get reconnected after we had a snafu. And that is a green flag, I think. I was thinking, I'm so thankful for you because you care about connection.
Yeah. And so we're going to talk about green flags today. That's going to be a major one on our list, isn't it?
Which one?
I don't know. Pursuing?
Yeah.
reconnection,
caring about connection.
Caring about connection. Is that one of them?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's inside
we
of there.
made a list of a bunch and we tried to narrow it down so we don't overwhelm everyone.
Did we check it twice?
I'm going to find out who's naughty and nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like an old man today a little bit in my jokes, but
I feel fine with that. That's typical for you.
It totally is.
Not weird. What I will say,
I want to say
you
something.
add something.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the deal. One of the things is that a lot of times there's a conversation around red flags, and it's all about the negative things. Like you see this, you see that, this is bad, run away from this. And I'm like, I think that it's very healthy to ask the question, what am I running towards?
Yes.
Not what am I running from?
Yes.
Because when I can get an idea or a vision of what I'm running towards, it's so much easier to like see the right thing, to see the thing that would bring my heart alive, that's really good for me. Otherwise, we're just going like, I just know there's a couple bad things I've seen, but I don't even know what I do want.
Yeah.
And so my hope is inside of this is that when we cast a vision for what green flags can look like in all forms of relationships, then you actually are building vision from this.
Yeah. I remember Mother Teresa saying something about how she didn't want to be known for what she was against. She wanted to be known for what she was for.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't go to an anti-war rally, but she would go for a pro-peace rally. And there is something really powerful that you're talking about, that when we focus on what we don't want, we find it more. Even the way scientifically our brains work, the neuroscience would be what we focus on, we notice more of. So my confirmation bias will be looping over red flags all the time if that's what I'm.
And you just keep being like, all I find are red flags. Yeah, because that's all you're looking for is red flags in your life.
Yeah.
I want to be able to go, all I find is green flags.
I don't know that that's realistic in a world full of red flags, but yes, it is good to have vision for what we do want. I also think that when I think about relationship green flags, I think this is also who I'm wanting to be.
Yeah.
Like I want to be a relationship green flag, not just I'm judging everyone else around me and trying to see if they're healthy or unhealthy. But I genuinely believe that the more green flags I have in me, the more I'll be attracted to other people who have green flags, the more I'll naturally fit and be compatible with other people who have a lot of green flags. And most of the time in relationship, I want to be becoming the person I'm looking for to be connected to.
Yeah. One of the things that I want to say is that oftentimes, even with the red flag approach to stuff, we're not self-analyzing.
Yeah.
So we're not self-reflective enough to say like, am I any of these red flags?
Am I the problem? Yes.
So a lot of times, even in that, we're just looking for all the external red flags rather than being self-aware and saying, hey, I actually have red flags. These red flags need to change. I need to become a green flag inside of my world so that I can attract the relationships, friendships, whatever that I want.
Yeah.
I want to be that, because other people, if there are other people living from a place of being a big giant green flag, they're looking for other green flags.
Yes, they are.
So am I a green flag as well?
Right.
Like you said.
Would they find me? Yeah. And we can all, and I think that's what has given me so much hope for relationships. When I was younger and relationships wouldn't work out, or there'd be pain or betrayal or breakups, or I'd be in a cycle of attracting the same type of person, I'd feel a lot of hopelessness, because I was like, how will I ever get out of this cycle? It's so natural for me to gravitate towards these certain types of people. And now I recognize the more my internal world has green flags, the more I am a safe person, the more I learn good communication skills, the more I become a healthy version of me. That dramatically changes who I fit with for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of power over changing my relationship cycles by adding green flags in my internal world.
That's so good.
And that feels hopeful and inspirational. And like I can have a better and better future and better relationships the more I go on the journey of growth. That feels so hopeful.
Yeah. So with that hopefulness that you're laying out there, I want y'all to know we're going to nail 7 or 8 green flags, hopefully, in this conversation.
And then we'll list a couple of the ones that we didn't have time to talk about, but we're on the board.
Yeah. So I want to start out with others focused or other centered type of love inside of someone. So there's this idea, like a green flag to me in my life, like I want to be someone who is consistently not abandoning myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to be able to be a person that I love myself really well. I love myself so much that I actually have an overflow to give.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm an individual that is looking around going like, where is it that I can serve the rest of humanity? Where can I take care of other people? Where can I express love through providing care and whatever it happens to be, right? But to me, someone that has the ability to see outside of their own personal conditions and see into the broader scope of humanity is someone who is operating out of empathy, sympathy, compassion. They're operating out of some level of understanding. An other-centered person oftentimes is.
Yeah, they're thinking about what are other people's experiences like. How are they doing? They have care for the people around them.
Might be a good word.
Right. Others focused people are not solely afraid of not getting their needs met.
Yeah.
They believe that they can get their needs met. So they're also being able to think about others. And I think that the ability to pay attention to others, to notice when people are in need, like that's something amazing about you. We could be walking down the street and you could notice that a mom is having a hard time loading all of her groceries into the car, and you will run out and go like help her put the things from her cart into her car.
Yeah.
Well, you're having an awareness of the world around you, and then you're doing something about that.
And an other-centered person is present usually with the reality of life. Because you're using that as an example. The only way that I'm able to notice that there is a mom that is struggling, trying to put stuff in her car is if I'm being present in the moment, not lost scrolling on my phone. I'm not harping on phones. I get on my phone at times, but I'm just saying like it requires me to be here and to be aware of, oh, I can feel what might be going on inside of Abby or one of my other friends. Like when I'm having a conversation with my friend, they can be giving me information, and from like a disconnected place, it's just regular information, no big deal. But if you're connected in and present, you go, I know my friend, and I know that they don't share that type of information there. There's a problem going on. I want to figure out what that is, and I want to figure out how to take care of them and serve them. But again, that takes that says I have to be present.
Yes. I think that it's worth noting there have been seasons. I'm generally an other-centered person, and I think that's one of the ways our relationship has worked, is that we are both other-centered people. And I used to call it just givers. Like there's givers and there's takers. And a lot of people have a relationship where there's one giver and one taker. And that gets really comfortable for codependent people and narcissistically tended people who have a tendency towards narcissism. But when you get a relationship with two givers, that means two people are caring that the other person feels loved. Two people are caring about the experience of the other person. Two people are both pouring into the relationship, pouring into the connection. Like that creates a great connection when both people are actually feeding it, pouring into it. It's really powerful. But in the midst of me saying that we are both in general givers, we've both had seasons where we were much more narcissistic. Like when I was really sick, I was not giving to very many people. And so I'm wanting to let people know that different seasons don't necessarily determine who you are. And there's different seasons in relationships where you may give more or less. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're a red flag or not. It is just part of being human.
Well, here's one thing that I like to say that I think that's a great point that you brought up as people are listening, considering. I think seasonal, like you'll meet someone in different seasons of their life and you won't get the authentic expression of who they are based on the conditions of their current experience.
Oh,
right?
yeah. When I had, in the height of my PTSD, much less of a giver.
Yeah. But when we're looking at green flags, I'm not looking at, I'm looking for like, what's the bigger picture show? Not just this moment of time and not just this individual thing. So we're looking over here at this idea of other-centered people, and there's going to be 7 or 8 more options that we'll talk about. And first off, out of these 7 or 8 options, do they have several of them? Do they have several of them? And then I might ask, like, say if it's a friend that I've had for the last 16 years, and for the last 2 years, they've got one of them on there. Right. But they had all 7 or 8 for a whole time. I might look at that and go, you know what? they're going through a rough season. Yep. This isn't who they are. I know that they're a major green flag. Mm-hmm. How can I support them till they can get back to expressing themselves in all these beautiful ways mm-hmm. that they're used to expressing themselves?
Yeah, I really love that.
That's a thought on that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, should I do one of mine that I picked? So I think a huge green flag is people who understand how they are wired as a human and how you're wired as a human and how triggers work. So it is almost impossible to navigate relationships well without having an understanding of how our bodies hold memories and how they bring triggers up in different situations. So a lot of things that help relationships is just having some emotional intelligence, some awareness around the concept of our bodies are made to help us survive, which sometimes creates chaos. Our bodies have a nervous system that is trying to figure out if we're in threat and danger or if we're safe. And then we have reactions that happen naturally to try to protect ourselves if we think we're in threat. And that impacts our dynamics relationally. When I am in a friendship, I'm bringing all of my past pain with me. Our bodies are like memory keepers. And so they hold on to all of the past pain, past betrayal, past surprises that we have gone through. And then they are there to make sure that if there's anything that could remind us of that past pain, threat, issue, that our whole system alerts us. And that creates a lot of chaos in relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, because all of a sudden you could be doing a behavior and it's complicated to know if your behavior is a huge problem or if it's just bringing up my past pain from relationships that is bringing up huge emotions. And so if you don't understand how your body is wired to protect you and how you could just make a facial expression and it could be the same. My brain could log it. When we talk about triggers, our brain is logging information all the time. So like I might see your facial expression. My brain might log it as sarcastic. It'll pull up every past sarcastic log in my history. And if there's a big pain point around sarcasm, then my brain will unconsciously just let me know that you are now a threat. And that what you did is really unsafe. Well, if I don't understand that this is how we're wired as humans, every time I have negative emotions, I'm going to blame you.
Right.
Every time I feel scared or in threat, I'm going to decide that you're the villain. And that's why I'm not feeling happy or safe. And so to me, one of the most important green flags is somebody that understands how your nervous system is designed to bring up threat in relationship so that you can start to, so you can start to weed through, is this me and my past issues? Is this them or is this both of us? So in relationships, when I see somebody, maybe they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, after our last conversation, I couldn't tell if you were being sarcastic. And I went and I spent some time and I realized I have a lot of pain from my history with sarcasm. And so it made me kind of want to put up some protection. What that does is that instantly lets me know that they're not blaming all of their emotions on me and that they know that their story impacts how we're perceiving each other. And that's true. All of us our behavior towards each other is impacted by our past history, whether we want it to or not. We have to accept that as humans, that there's not a way for me to relate to you without my past being a part of my filter in what I feel from how you're interacting with me.
Yeah. And I also want to add to this, like when someone understands triggers, they actually have a heart posture that's usually rooted in compassion, sympathy, empathy, understanding. Because of the fact that like when we understand the way that humans work, all of a sudden we end up getting out of our judgment towards others because we go, oh yeah, like we all have these things that happen. We're not just deliberately trying to be terrible human beings to one another. We have pain points inside of us that are provoking things. And then we understand like, oh, I do this oftentimes. And if I do it, they do it. And we're having a shared human experience.
Yes.
And so there's this ability to actually love so much better when you understand how humans work. I found that people that don't have an understanding of how humans work are some of the most judgmental,
absolutely
harsh, reactive, shut down. They lack a lot of grace and mercy for other people. And those are two other words that I think stand out. Like when you understand how people work, you have a lot of grace and mercy for people.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that every behavior is okay, but it ends up, there's a lot of dynamics in any relationship where misunderstandings can happen, where moments where people don't show their best self. And when you have that compassion for your own, when you have emotional intelligence, you know, sometimes I have really good intentions, but it doesn't come out right.
Yeah.
So then when I can then imagine, oh, maybe you have really good intentions, but it just didn't come out right.
Yeah.
Those things that we begin to believe about ourselves. So the more we understand about how we function as humans, the more it enables us to see the world not in black or white, but in lots of vivid colors. So then we can see our partner or our friends or our employees in a variety of colors as well.
Yeah. So I was almost going to say like, you're calling it colors. I'm calling it gray. All those colors accumulate into gray matter.
Yes, that makes sense.
It gets it out of black and white, but it gets it into the gray matter. Where, it's not just, this is just the way it is. That's just the way that they are.
Yep. Which this is one of the green flags you picked was
nuance.
Operates from nuance.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what that is? I was surprised that you put this on the list. I like it. But I was surprised that it was so important to you.
Don't be an ass. Don't you do that.
No.
I'm surprised this is important to you, Mr. Black and White.
No, I didn't mean it like
that. I'm totally just playing around.
That's funny.
I'm just playing.
That's cute.
Yeah. No,
you got me. I thought you were
I was
really...
like, as I was taking off the plane,
like,
joking around, I'm like, oh, she thinks I'm really serious.
Totally.
I hope I can land this joke.
It was good.
But why were you surprised that I picked nuance? Is that something that I should ask about?
I was surprised about a lot of these that ended up on our list because I would say a couple of years ago, these would not be what we would have said relationship green flags were.
Yeah.
And nuance was, I actually just am curious. I can't wait to hear why it feels so important to you as a green flag, that it's one of your top. We both picked our top 3.
Yeah.
And this was one of your top 3.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's really difficult to deal with someone who has rigid thinking.
They actually say that to have emotional health, you have to be able to be emotionally flexible.
Yeah.
That you cannot be emotionally healthy with rigid thinking.
Yeah. And I know that there are areas where I had rigid thinking and I had black and white thinking, and that's really difficult. I also think that people who operate out of rigid thinking operate out of a lot of judgment. And I operated out of a lot of judgment. And in my own personal healing process that I've gone through, I've seen the detrimental effects of judgment, not just externally on other people, but the effects of it internally. Like when I'm holding judgment towards other people, the way that it creates bitterness and resentment within ourselves.
Hierarchy.
Isolation and stuff. And so I know that there's parts of the experience in our relationship that wouldn't have been fun for you because you've told me. And I can sympathize with that because part of my pain experience was, if I don't judge something as good or bad, it's going to hurt me really bad. Right? Like I have to figure out what's not safe and pass some judgments on it. And so that's where I created a lot of that. So it wasn't necessarily like in an evil heart. It was a self-protective heart of like, I need to know what's going to hurt me. But what I saw is that it limited me from getting more understanding. It limited me from having compassion, just something we had just discussed.
Can I just define what you're saying a little bit? So you're saying nuance is the ability to see many different shades or the gray or whatever. And you're saying the opposite is black and white thinking. You're good or you're bad. Is that what you're defining?
Yeah.
And like seeing people as the villain or the hero.
Right.
Like
correct.
a lot of, so is that what you're saying? And the ability to have nuance is to see that there's so many shades between the villain and the hero.
Well, yeah. And I was going to go deeper into that.
Yeah, good.
So yes, I agree. That's correct. And so, excuse me. So when it comes to the idea of nuance, I didn't think that you could have a spectrum and have boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? But somebody who's actually healthy with nuance is actually probably a very healthily boundaried person.
Yes.
Because if you have the ability to hold nuance to say like, oh, there's a spectrum. This person has made these messes over here, but there's beauty over here in their life. It means they're aware of both things. They're not living in delusion about either like the whole spectrum of the human being. And it means that they're adjusting their relationships accordingly based on the fullness of truth. And so I was living in half truths. So there was areas where I found a villain in a story, and then I would overlook all the good things about them. And then I would find someone as heroic and totally safe. And I'd overlook all of these problematic situations that could cause pain. And so I didn't have any boundaries with the people that I had said, all right, you're a hero, or you're great, you're perfect, and you're a villain over here. So, ultimately I end up even getting more hurt because I had no healthy boundaries with the people that I put in the heroic place.
Yes.
Right. Cause I was I remember I have a specific individual inside of my mind.
Yeah.
And I overlooked all of these red flags. And I just said, you're just a full green flag. Because I don't have nuance on this, and I'll accept it.
I don't know how to hold that you could be a mixture of both. And if you are a mixture of both, I don't know if I'm allowed to have boundaries or not.
Correct. And so there was like zero boundaries. And then I got really hurt inside of the situation. I'm going, I didn't have to be hurt. And they could have still been in my life, And so all that to say, so
now I'm just trying to guess who that was.
Yeah.
I thought I knew, but now I don't.
But maybe you don't. So to me, nuance is a sign of maturity, mature relating.
Yes.
Again, going back to, I'll have boundaries most likely inside of that. I see people in a better form, in a better way. And nuance also, I'm trying to figure out how to paint this picture, right? But it's nuance is a doorway to wisdom. Right? Like if I want to have wisdom on a circumstance, I have to be able to have nuance on it. Otherwise, I'm all over the place. So to me, someone who operates in nuance, I'm going, oh, they're probably a person who operates out of a lot of wisdom.
Yeah. So somebody who sees complexity in situations,
Correct.
Somebody that sees there's multiple different angles. I think this happens in leadership. The higher up you are in a company or a business or a church or whatever leadership structure you're in, the more you see that every problem has so many complex issues. Like I remember when I was at an entry-level job, I very much judged the decisions this big company was making. And I was like, what is wrong with them? They just need to do this, this, and this. And it was so simple.
Yeah.
And then I ended up becoming at the top layer of leadership there. And you were like, oh my gosh, if we change this, it'll have this and this and this ripple, and it'll impact this and this. And if we change this, this will change this and this and this. And you're like, oh, this is actually much more complex than I could see at the beginning. And so part of emotional maturity, you're saying, is our ability to hold more than one thing at one time. To see different layers, to see different things. One thing I might even say is like to hold that everybody is made up of lots of parts instead of just seeing one part at a time. So when we would get into fights, I would be like, he doesn't care about me at all. And I would completely lose all these other things where you did care about me. Which
is very painful for me.
It was horrible.
The lack of nuance on that was very painful for me.
And so, and I would say this is very disordered, mentally ill thinking that most of society is doing right now.
Yes, we do that. Yep.
A lot of society is in black and white thinking, but they actually say this is not emotionally healthy for people. And so for me, having a mom that struggled with, why am I all of a sudden forgetting what it's called? Borderline, which is this black and white thinking. I had to go on a whole journey of learning how to hold nuance, which was what Justin did just felt like he didn't care about me. But also there's all these situations that I have seen him really care about me. And so I want to look at him as a whole, that this one moment is not all of who he is. And those moments are not all of who he is. That you are a human that loves me a lot and does a lot of things to show me that, and also has a lot of areas that you self-protect. That feels like a much more whole way to view you than either you don't care about me at all or you're the best husband ever.
And it's a way of honoring and respecting humanity. Nuance, again, nuance is a way of honoring and respecting humanity.
Yes.
And so to me, when I look at someone who has a capacity for nuance, I go, oh, there's a good chance there's levels of honor and respect for humanity inside of that.
That you can see that people, and nuance helps you remember that somebody might have, like I have a friend who one part of them wants to love me so well and be the best friend that they could be to me. And one part of them gets so locked inside of themselves and being like, okay, I can remember that there's two parts inside, like there's probably 10, but there's different things conflicting inside of you instead of, I guess I'm kind of repeating what I had already said about you, but I was thinking about the ability to then see that there are good intentions that people might have, even when we're experiencing negative things from them.
Yeah, that's really good. I know that you had, one of the ones on your list was ownership.
Oh,
I don't know if that's one that you want to talk about.
Yes. Well, yes.
Maybe.
Well, the one I want to do next is communicating without blame, because I just feel like it goes in the order of what we're talking about. But then we can get to ownership. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
The next green flag is that you can communicate without blame. But the only way you can communicate without blame is to have the ability to not be blaming. Like, it's not just saying the right words. It's not just how do I talk so you don't feel blamed. It's actually learning how do I live a lifestyle where I'm not fully blaming you for everything going on in me, which builds on, I understand how humans work. I understand my triggers. I also understand that you're complex. So I am not saying you're bad because I had big feelings.
Yeah.
And we blame. If you are communicating with blame, either through your words or through your emotional energy, and when I say emotional energy, I'm saying like your emotional energy is saying it is all your fault I have feelings that are bad and you are bad and you're the reason why. That automatically creates defensiveness.
Yeah.
Because people automatically have to say, no, I'm not bad. Like every one of us has a reaction inside of us when we feel like we're being called bad to say, no, I'm not bad. That's like such an instinctual gut response. And so if we want people to be able to hear us and relate back and forth, communicating without blame is the way to do it. Because if you communicate to me without blame, I have a much better chance of responding with an apology towards you. And if I communicate without blame towards you, you have a much better chance of feeling safe if I'm upset. And those are such important things in relationship. And the concept of communicating without blame was completely foreign to me. We destroyed each other with this.
Yeah, it was foreign to both of us.
We were walking red flags.
Yeah. We definitely weren't green flags in this area.
No. No.
I think we are not taught, both within our family systems or within culture, how to have communication that is I focused. Like, oh, I'm feeling this and I'm experiencing this. This blame-free communication isn't something that's in, like, everything is about, there's got to be a villain and there's got to be a victim. And you
need to be the villain so that my victim's story is validated.
Right. So we see it culturally at large,
Mm-hmm.
people are trying to figure out who the bad guy is, and we're taught how to debate
Mm-hmm.
and prove points
Mm-hmm.
and lawyer. So
Mm-hmm.
blaming communication is something that is very normalized.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that as people are listening, there's a pretty good chance if you think you don't blame, you probably do.
Yeah, because
it's pretty universal.
Me and you still struggle with it.
Absolutely.
And we've been intentionally weeding it out
for quite a long time.
Yes, of our story.
Yeah, we don't even know how to communicate a feeling about myself. Like, I think Kyle, what was this Kyle was saying the other day with Rachel? He was talking about how do you put it? He was like, yeah, I used to tell Rachel, like, you're making me so mad right now. And he was like, I was telling her about my feelings.
Yes, totally.
And he was laughing about how he couldn't see how that was just such a blame style of communication rather than a vulnerable communication that's saying like, hey, let me tell you about me. I can tell that I'm feeling overwhelmed and scared and things are happening inside of me. Like he just didn't know how to do it, but he perceived that he was sharing his feelings. And most people perceive that they're sharing their feelings. So I don't think you're going to find a lot of people that are green flags in this area.
Totally. But maybe people that are growing towards it. And that want to learn that skill.
Yeah.
And that are working on it and care about how they communicate.
Yeah.
I think I had a friend who was recently, they were talking to their spouse about feeling blamed by their communication. And they gave this example, which I thought was great, blame-free communication example. They were like, next time could you say, hey, I know that you really care about loving me and pursuing me relationally. I've seen you do that in the way that you take me on dates every week, in the way that you are writing me things you love about me all the time, in the way that you are pursuing growing to be healthy in our relationship. So I know that those are your intentions, but this is going on inside of me about what just happened. And can we talk through that? And so what that did is it took off I'm not coming at you to decide you're bad. I'm saying, I know that there's all of these things that exist and this situation exists, and I'm trying to figure out how to hold that together. And I thought that was a good practical idea for how to not just how to use the nuance and holding more about one person and not attack their intentions.
Yeah.
Which is what blame does, is it attacks, like, I know why you did this.
Yeah.
I know that you meant to hurt me. I know that you were trying to piss me off. I know, instead of like when you understand how humans work, you're like, I bet you were trying to protect yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's good. Would you mind transitioning into ownership?
Yeah. Do you want to jump in?
Because I think it was good. It was a good point. Like even blame-free communication is a step in the direction of ownership.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's literally saying like, oh, I know that there is something going on inside of me that I have to actually figure out how to communicate really well. And I know that this person isn't solely responsible for this experience. They might be collaborating and participating and creating stuff, but there's something going on inside of me that I need to understand. And ownership is, to me, saying like, I know that I play a role in all of the experiences that are happening inside of my life. I know that I play a role in a way that I am collaborating in each relationship. I'm collaborating in the mess that's currently happening, and I'm collaborating in all of the victories and the beauty that's happening inside of it. And so to me, when you find someone that wants to take ownership, that takes a lot of humility, which is something else we're going to talk about inside of this. But it tells me like, oh, this is someone that wants to grow. If I want to have ownership, it means I want to grow. I want to develop inside of myself. I want to go. I want to come face to face with myself. I think that we as humans are terrified of facing ourselves. Someone who has ownership is saying like, I know I play a big role inside of this. I want to understand how I play a role because I want to grow inside of my life. I want to healthily repair. I want to healthily connect inside of it. But it also tells me that people who take ownership are willing to face fear. Because one of the most terrifying things that we have to do as humans is look honestly at ourselves.
Yeah.
It feels so much safer to hide behind denial. I'll deny that I'm a problem. I'll deny that I add any problems to this. I'll deny that I play any role inside of it.
Well, that goes into black and white thinking, right?
Correct.
Black and white thinking is, it's all your fault that something happened. I contribute nothing. And the nuance is, maybe you did something that was a really big thing, but I know that our energy interplays, our nervous systems are interplaying. Like, there is a way that we are both showing up in each situation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of taking ownership to me is, will you apologize regularly?
Yeah.
That is a huge part of what a green flag in a person is, that they will apologize consistently. And it doesn't mean that they're falling on the sword and apologizing for things that aren't their fault. It could just be things like, hey, I realized that I got self-protective and you might have felt my walls up. And I know that that's not a fun sensation. Or I know that when you were sharing your feelings, I got defensive, and I don't want to get defensive when you share. I want you to feel safe to share without that. Or, you know, like the ability to just say our part in situations, that takes so, like you said, so much courage and so much humility. But people who are green flags are people who are easy to want to say, this was something that I was doing and this is not how I want to do it moving forward. Or I understand that I impacted you and I care.
Yeah. And it makes it so much more safe, right? Like somebody who's taking ownership creates safety, because we know in ownership, there's going to be way less blame. Like, as we've each taken ownership inside of our marriage, the blame level is going down, 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 because we're aware of the role that we're playing and how we're co-creating inside of it. So all of a sudden it continues to pull us out of a defensive posture into a connective posture.
Yeah.
Because ownership says, like you said, I'm not falling on my sword, but I play a role, you play a role. I see that we're both human, we're both messy, there's both good things inside of us, and I want to be closer to you. Because that's what ownership is. It's a desire to repair, it's a desire to get closer. And like you said, a good sign of ownership is someone who says, oh, I'm sorry, and can acknowledge some way that they're playing a part in breakdowns.
Oh yeah. Even if it's just like, you're right, I was checked out on my phone when you're trying to share that with me. I'm so sorry. That wouldn't feel good. That it's that humility.
Something
and it's
so
saying,
simple.
I care more about connection with you than being right or looking perfect or protecting myself.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to me to the next one, is somebody who pursues repair. Every relationship you're in will have miscommunications at some point, misunderstandings, some kind of rupture where you're going to have to talk through things. And so green flags are people that want to repair.
Yeah.
And they want to learn how to repair. So today was a great example when we felt disconnected. And I could feel myself warm up towards you a little bit. I didn't even like your idea of what we had to do, but
I could tell. It was clear.
But I loved that you were presenting an idea for us to come back together.
Yeah.
To me, that was showing that your heart is for us repairing.
Yeah.
And people who apologize, it shows that they care about repairing. People that come back to have another conversation after there's been a miscommunication or a frustration or a conflict. And obviously you need to have boundaries, and it's not that there needs to be times where you realize we can't repair. There's certain relationships where you try to repair and the other person is not participating in the repair process.
Maybe they're not being a green flag.
Maybe we should start being like, are you being a little yellow flag right now? That'd be funny. Like there's times when repair doesn't work. So I'm not saying you want somebody that's a doormat that never stands up for their own needs and doesn't have their own voice, but somebody who is, and that's something that I think you've done really well in our marriage, is even when you had no idea how to repair, even when you had no idea what that should look like, you wanted connection And sometimes that's all you could say is you'd be like, hey, I want us to be connected. I don't know how, but I want us to find our way back to each other. I don't know how, but I love you and I want us to be able to move through this.
Yeah.
Just that ability to do something that moves towards people, towards your close people. I don't have to do this with, like people that I don't know that well, but people that I love, that I'm committed to, like relationally in friendship. I want to know that I'll move towards them if there's a disruption. And I want to know that they'll move towards me if there's a disruption. And people with avoidance often move away from people when there is some kind of disruption in connection. And so I'd like to just villainize all of them. They're all bad, all the avoidance. I'm just kidding. But I am totally kidding. A lot of my closest friends are avoidance. But the thing is, a lot of them have learned my natural nature is to want to avoid when a disconnection happens. And so I have to find a way to lean in a little bit, which I'd say to you, you have a lot of avoidance, but you found ways to even just say with your words, I want connection. I want repair. I'm willing to keep talking through this till we get back. That posture really does create a lot of safety in relationships. They say that the more you know that miscommunications won't destroy your relationship, the safer you'll feel in that relationship. And the way that you feel safe in relationship is by knowing that somebody is going to pursue repair instead of just try to jump ship whenever things get hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we both made mention of the word humility. I want to get into humility. We don't have a whole lot of time left in the podcast, but to me, a portion of humility is curiosity. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about things like nuance and saying that like people are a mixture of all types of things, like the reason we do what we do, there's so many reasons that we act the way that we do. And to me, someone who's a major green flag is someone who's sitting there being like, I'm not going to jump to conclusions on what's going on here. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I know the answer to why this is happening and stuff, but I really want to get down to it. I want to understand this person's heart. I want to know where they're coming from. I want to better understand their story, because if I can get context for what they're doing, maybe this isn't as offensive as it is, or I can then better communicate my experience with them. And so to me, humility says I don't have to be right. Inside of that curiosity, it also says I'm not here. It's not about either of us being right. It's about healthiness. It's like I'm literally trying to do what I need to do in order to align with the law of love.
Yeah.
Right. Versus we just need to lawyer this out.
Well, and one of the things about humility is remembering, even if I know a lot, I don't know a lot for each individual. Like I may know a lot about relationships, but if I bring that to a new person, I'm going to have to learn them. There's humility in like the things that might make some of my friends feel really safe might feel really threatening to other people. Like the level that I'm honest with people makes a lot of my friends feel really safe, but some people that feels like the scariest thing ever. And so remembering there's not a right or a wrong, we're learning how to love people. And so the humility is I have to learn each new person. I have to learn how to work with each person. My nervous system and their nervous system have to find a way to interact in a way that leads towards regulation, not towards chaos. And that is like, even if I had fully figured out me and your dynamic, every new relationship is going to be a new learning process, a new person to learn, a new person to understand their triggers, understand what they need to feel safe, understand what means love to them. And so humility can be, I don't know it all. Because even if you can know it all, you can't know it all about every person.
And someone who's humble is saying, I want to learn, I want to grow, and I'm open to being corrected, right? And because at the core of them, they don't have to prove anything. Like the more humble a person is, it's really saying, oh, this person really has very little to prove inside of their lives. And it also tells me when someone's really humble that they have their own personal sense of identity.
Yeah.
Like a healthy sense of identity that says, oh,
I can be wrong and still be
correct.
Worth something.
Somewhere inside of that person, they have a stability based in love.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I love me. I know I'm loved. I don't have to prove anything. My identity or value isn't in question right now inside of this situation where there's a disagreement. So I can take the low road and ask good questions. And I can also go take ownership inside of this.
Yeah.
Well, also, like, again, like not having to be a doormat.
Yeah.
I can be very humble and not be a doormat and still say like, oh, I explored what your experience is, and here I am to share mine, you know?
Yeah. I think that what you're saying, you know, humility leads to our ability to take ownership. Humility leads to our ability to seek repair. Humility, a lot of humility comes from understanding how we're built as humans. So I think that all of ours kind of flow together. Humility a lot is, I'm not looking down on you.
Yeah.
And a lot of that to me, again, comes from understanding how we work as humans, because I'm like, no, I self-protect in all the ways you self-protect. They might look different. I might think mine are prettier, but we're both self-protecting to survive. And that creates some humility to remember that we're all in this together and we're all learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's good. So I know we had a couple others. We're pretty close to wrapping up. Did you want to hit any of those?
Yeah. I think overall, one of the things that we are talking about is somebody that is connection oriented.
Yeah.
All of this is, they actually care enough about relationships, enough to learn some skills. It's so wild to me. I was watching this video about all the things you don't learn in high school. You don't learn about taxes. You don't learn about car insurance. You don't learn about how to buy a home.
About almost anything that matters.
You don't learn emotional health, which I think is the greatest disservice to humans right now. And so I think to myself, relationships are the thing you're going to spend your most time with. You cannot avoid relationships. You're going to have to work with people. You're going to have to marry people or date people or be celibate. You're going to have family. You know, like,
you can't isolate yourself.
You can't, from every single person. No. And relationships take up so much time and energy in our life. So that feels like one of the most important investments that we can make is I want to learn some relationship skills so that I enjoy my relationships more, so that they can be richer, so that they can be deeper, so that I can have good connection with the people around me. And you'll notice the people that think it's worth it to learn, or the people that are like, that's stupid, that doesn't matter, that's too much work, quit trying to change me, quit trying to control me. You know, like, there are a lot of reactions that people have to resisting learning about how to be in relationship. And it makes sense because people are scared. They're scared they're bad. They're scared that somebody's going to take over all of their autonomy and tell them what they have to do and be. You know, they're scared of being controlled. They're scared of being nagged. Like, there's so many reasons people resist emotional health. But if we look at how much time we're going to spend having somebody that cares about connection, and they could show it in whatever way. Maybe the ways they show that they care about connection is that they pursue you regularly. Maybe they call you all the time. Like, one of my friends, one of the ways I know they're connection oriented is they just text me regularly. I'm like, oh, okay, you care. Sometimes it's people that show up to do a hobby with you all the time. Like, it doesn't have to all look the same, but you want to be able to have multiple ways that you can say, the people closest to me, I know they care about connection.
Yeah, that's good. So, we good with that? We wrapping?
I feel like
on that?
We're good. You feel good?
I did want to say one other one that was really quickly was being proactive. I think watching people who are, and I think that plays a role in all of this, like, they're being deliberate about their lives. They're being intentional about their relationships, about how they manage their heart, about how they grow and develop. And so when I see proactivity in many areas of life, I'm like, oh, that's a major green flag.
That's a green flag.
Because passivity is not fun for me.
Yeah.
So
there's so many more that people could list, but
getting the whole point of this is, like, do you have a list of green flags? Maybe you hear these things and you go, yeah, I love all those, but I have a couple other that popped into my head that are so important. Like, put those down and get vision for that. And again, ask yourself, am I exhibiting these green flags? And is there areas where I need some help?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of these that I'm still growing in.
Yeah.
And I also think that I'm much more green flaggy than I used to be.
On that note, I don't think there's a place where you come to the epitome of just crushing all these and just being perfect at any of these, but it is something to behold inside of us. And to me, these green flags all have a root in love. Like ultimately there's love sourced in all of it. And I'm always asking the question, how do I become more like love? Because I know there's plenty of areas that I don't show up like love.
Yeah.
And I have to face that and be real about
and
that.
that humility is one of the most attractive things about you. And it has made you a green flag. And it is one green flag you had before we got married that is the reason we're still married.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to learn how to become like love. And in every season, you've grown more towards love.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had a lot of red flags, but that one green flag.
Easy girl. Easy girl.
It made it past the other ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, hey, if you haven't yet, head over to YouTube, subscribe over there, hit the bell button, share it with people if you haven't shared it. Give us some reviews somewhere. That helps us out. And if you want to find us on YouTube, the easiest way to find us is go to Justin and Abby. That's abi.com/theconnectedlife, and it will direct you to our YouTube channel.
Oh, you know, the other thing I will say is people always say, how do I get my girlfriend or boyfriend to watch, like, to see this clip or whatever? I'm like, just watch the podcast together and then debrief.
Yeah. After you've watched it, you're like, oh, they need to see this.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we should watch a podcast together. Let's see what this is about.
Let's just try it. Are we green flags? Let's take a test. Are we all these green flags? Which green flag am I the most?
Yeah.
Which one do you think I'm the best at?
What?
That'd be a fun way. Here's some debrief questions if you listen with your partner or your friends. Ask them, what are some of the things you're really good at? Like, what are some of the green flags that they really appreciate about you from our list? And then what are some of the green flags they appreciate about you that weren't on our list?
Oh, yeah, that's good.
And then everybody could share maybe one thing that they want to grow in, or however many things that they're like, yeah, I feel like I could grow in that area. I could grow in this area.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
It's good debrief.
Okay. Well, I'm tired. We've done a lot today.
We've done here. Cheers for this.
Cheers.
What is yours from?
Vault-Tec.
I don't know what that is.
Fallout.
Oh.
Yeah.
Go Denver Broncos.
Go Fallout. Bye now.